Hey guys, so today we are going to go into ab exercises, but not just ab exercises, we're also going to go into waist training specific exercises. So this is Aaron. He just won the Colorado Cup Men's Physique Overall Championship. He's gotten his waist down to 26 inches, even lower than that, probably when come show day, probably 25 and some change. And so he's done a lot of work on this, getting his abs and his waist as tight as he can by doing waist training exercises we're going to go over today. What are some of the things that you want to go over?
Just starting out with like 4 to 5 second intervals, and then just working my way up from there just by 5 seconds. And with the interval, I would start on the ground, and then I did that progression for about a month, and then just continued to go to the hands and knees, and then now I just do it standing. So.
All right, cool. So let's go ahead and go into level 1.
Perfect.
When he's breathing all his air out and then he sucks in his stomach, he's not sucking in more air. And that's one of the things I find that people struggle with the most. So all of his air is out and then he sucks in just his stomach, just his abs, his transverse abdominis, but he's not sucking in any air at this point. If he sucks in any air at this point, it's going to defeat the purpose of this exercise, which is to bring the waist in as tight as possible. And you can't do that when there's a bunch of air in your lungs. This is stage 2, which is a little bit harder. The reason it's a little bit harder is you're gonna be able to suck in more from this position, and it's really hard to hold that in the beginning. When you're like this and gravity's actually pulling you downward too, you'll get a little bit of lower back rounding, and that's gonna help with the ab flexion as well. Same technique, breathe out all your air, sucking all your abs as hard as you can, a little bit of lower back rounding, not much. And we're doing it in reps, just like you would do reps in a set. Why don't you go ahead and explain the third progression?
Yeah, one thing that's like I kind of talked about, sucking your belly button to your spine, that's really helped me out, just getting a little more of a deeper contraction, I feel, is putting your hands over your head, just kind of like the Frank Zane pose, quote unquote. Just breathe out all of your air and then just suck in without actually taking air in, like Adam has mentioned. So.
If you're doing that right, I mean, you feel like you're like ripping your internal organs into your upper chest. Like it's hard. If you're doing it right, it's hard. If you're doing it wrong, you can do it all day long. How long do you think you could hold if you held it? Like maybe 20 if you really held it?
Yeah, probably
so
20. That would be pushing it.
Yeah. So he does reps of basically sets of how many of those are you doing?
I do at least 10 per exercise, but I try and spread out throughout the day. Sometimes I'll even do it if I'm driving, especially in Colorado traffic. One thing I really noticed is that it's super busy on I-70, so I'll just kind of sit in my car and do some vacuums, pass the time.
And I've heard of other guys doing it right when they wake up, when there's no food in their stomach, when they're laying in their bed. They'll just lay in their bed before they wake up and do five reps or so. So this is one of those things that you have to do all the time if you want to get any benefit from it. So that's how you get, this is basically waist training at its best, trying to get the waist smaller. So to increase spinal flexion, what you need to do is you actually need to go like this. That's spinal flexion, okay, where you round your lower back, your hips come forward kind of like this, and you're rounded. That's where the abs are doing their job. Okay, the same thing as like a bicep contracting, okay, like this, that's its job. So we couldn't train a bicep by going just like this. You can't train it doing that. So this is how people are doing it. So I'm gonna show you, first let's do it wrong, and you'll be like, oh, that's how I do my abs. So this is how you do it wrong. Okay, go ahead and do an ab crunch. That is wrong. Okay, the reason that is wrong, go ahead and do another one, is you see his back, it's perfectly straight here the whole time. There's no spinal flexion in that. So when there's no spinal flexion, the only thing that happens is his psoas, which is his hip flexor here, this muscle up here front, this muscle will do all the work by pulling his upper body up into it. So this muscle here can actually pull the body up. All right, so now we're gonna do it right, and we're actually gonna do increase spinal flexion, and we're actually gonna do it right now. Okay, so you'll see him basically rounding from here. At this point, is this whole part rounds forward. And now his lower back is rounded. He breathes out all his air. And this applies to every ab exercise. So you can see how much harder it is, how much more core stabilization is required. I was getting some shaking going, and that's because it's just so much harder than the other way of doing it. You probably do 100 of the other ones. This one you're not gonna do 100 of.
One thing I really like about doing the hanging leg raises is that you're able to kind of stretch out your core, just like when you do the vacuums. I don't know if I really touched on that, but I try to always stretch out my core, my midsection as far as possible while I'm performing the exercise. And then I also feel like building from the bottom up in regard to abs is just helps shape the rectus abdominis a little more. So that could be just my opinion, but I don't know, it seems like it's worked for me still. One key that I really like to hone in on is making sure your lats are stabilized throughout the exercise, and then just pulling from basically your knees to your belly button area, and then just stopping there, and just helps stretch out your core.
So it's pretty basic. You just jump on this, 15 reps, 10 seconds, 12 reps for short of failure, 10 seconds, and keep going until you reach your number. So he's trying to round his lower back, not just pull straight down. So a lot of people do this wrong too, and they won't round their lower back. They just pull straight down, and this is gonna be the best way to get the contraction. If you see, he's hinging basically at his midsection here. He's hinging right there, rounding, breathing out all his air, squeezing his abs as hard as he can. All right, so we're gonna go into another exercise. This one is actually, I think, the toughest ab exercise I know. I mean, right?
Yeah, I agree.
It's really hard. Using the same techniques that we just went over, where you're rounding your lower back, but you're gonna lock your arms out the whole time. He's gonna lock his arms out so he's not getting any movement of chest or triceps, just abs. He's holding it up and then doing an ab crunch. So the last part of training abs, obviously, is getting the body fat off the abs. So what we do with Team Elite Physique is everyone does HIIT. We've been doing HIIT cardio for over 10 years. Every single physique we put on stage in the last 15 years has been with HIIT cardio. So this is how we work it. We work real hard. We don't do a lot of cardio. We get the job done quickly. Aaron's gonna probably be doing 12 bursts or so total. And the bursts are all out bursts. So basically you're running to full speed, just like you're doing a set. You want to go to failure, then he'll rest a minute or so, get full recovery, then do another burst, okay? I'm probably getting around 12 of those because he's getting ready for a show right now. That's a lot. So it'll basically take about 25 minutes or so to get all that done. So we'll show you how burst is done, and that's the end of it.